Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jake from College Football Red Zone reporting in with what we have for our next team coming up as we are almost done with all the teams that are ranked outside of the top 100. We are officially in the top 100 now, so very excited to get into it and really to also start conversations up around the Pac-12 because we have not introduced any Pac-12 teams yet in this first look series where we take a look at all 138 programs from a 50,000 feet perspective. Well, that finally changes here tonight because we get our first Pac 12 team here in the first look series. So, hopefully, you guys are excited for this first look in terms of who that 100th ranked team in college football is for me, at least of how things stand in the springtime. And with that, if you've been enjoying the content here, man, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. If you do happen to be brand new, and let's go ahead and jump into things with I guess, our lowest ranked Pac 12 squad going into this season. That's going to be the Texas State Bobcats, who are, part of that new look Pac 12 coming in from the way of the Sun Belt. And this was a Texas State football team last year where I'm looking at what Texas State did and thought that was a team that was going to be dead in the water. But man, did they really find a spark in the month of November. That blowout loss that they took to James Madison really woke them up as a football team. And hopefully that can carry them through as a potential momentum booster into the 2026 campaign. Because after that James Madison blowout loss, they end up rattling four straight wins, including getting a nice win in the bowl game as well. I believe they went up against Rice. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know that they won their bowl game for sure. And so Texas State finishes the year on a four-game winning streak. And some of those pieces that were part of that winning streak, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, well, they are going to be back because we absolutely have to talk about Brad Jackson, whereas just a freshman quarterback last season, Brad Jackson did not look scared at all. A matter of fact, not only did he play pretty well, but he was a third team All Sun Belt quarterback as a freshman, which is crazy to think about where, you've only been playing college football for a year or maybe a couple of years, depending on how the red shirts work for each individual athlete. And to be able to be an all conference player right away, that really shows just how special Brad Jackson is. And hopefully being in a little bit more of a high profile conference and being a part of some more high profile teams from a pure program perspective, I think the attention on this offense is only going to grow and the lore of it because he's got some explosive weapons to work with on the outside. Bo Sparks is the big one, first team All Sun Belt wide receiver. He is the clear cut alpha dog in this Texas State passing attack, but it's certainly not just him either. It's Chris Dunn on the outside. He was a first team all conference player, and they're going to get some reinforcements from the high school ranks as well because, man, they brought in some high school players at the wide receiver position that even though they're going to be relatively deep in the room, these guys can step in and they can absolutely play right away. One that I'm particularly eyeing that I think could start maybe as a wide receiver free right away as a true freshman, Lakeon Graves. He is a four-star recruit according to 247 Sports in the 2026 recruiting class. Man, he just excites me. Just a very physically gifted receiver. So very excited to see Lakeon Graves and see how he does as a true freshman. But then not even a guy that gets a little bit overshadowed, even in this recruiting class, is Xavier Warren. Not as highly touted, but he was very close to being a four-star recruit in his own right. Ended up being a very high three-star guy as well. He's going to also join the wide receiver room, and he's someone that does have an opportunity to come out and be a very good contributor for this Texas State offense as well. Which is it's interesting because what we've seen from GJ Kinn, we talk about how crazy that Deion Sanders went in transfer portal, but DJ Kinn has, when he first got here, he flipped the roster day one as well. He had a massive number of transfer overhauls, but starting to flip it over to where they're going a little bit more of the route of the high school recruiting instead of focusing more on the transfer portal. So looking to build something more internally now that he's got the foundation that he thinks he needs in order to take this program to another level. And there is some arguments that that philosophy has been working because he has been the most successful coach, I think, in Texas State's FBS history, entering his fourth season, 23-16 being his current overall record. That does also come with obviously multiple bowl appearances as well. So, including getting, I believe, their first bowl win in program history. So, got to show love to the Texas State Bobcats from that perspective. But just those two all conference receivers, plus Brad Jackson at the quarterback, and those two high school seniors coming in as true freshmen that could get some meaningful playing time as well. You're really talking about a passing attack that could not only be one of the best passing attacks in the Pac 12, but you're talking about being one of the best passing attacks in the G6. It's certainly one of the more exciting teams that I'm looking forward to watch this upcoming season. And then the offensive line actually might get a tad better depending on what they ended up getting from Jalen Early, who was someone that doesn't have a ton of reps. He comes in from the way of the Missouri Tigers, but he was a former four-star recruit too, blue chip player. So there has to be something in here. Does he get that opportunity to shine here in San Marcos, Texas? We'll just have to wait and see. But there is a true chance that the offensive line could be a little bit better either. But so you're hearing all these positive things, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, you're saying all these good things about Texas State, but why you have them as your lowest rated team in the Pac 12? And that goes to really the opposite side of that perspective, where you got the offense, but you need a defense as well. And the defense was very inconsistent last season. And not only do I think that there isn't really any substantial improvements on the defensive side of the ball, didn't really see anyone in the transfer portal that Texas State brought in that was productive at their previous spot. I actually think they could be a tad worse defensively. Jordan Sanders was the biggest loss on the defensive side of the ball. He ends up transferring to Florida State, and that was someone that, if he were to stay at Texas State, he was going to be a potential breakout candidate. But instead, he's going to be competing for playing time there in Tallahassee, Florida. So that's something to certainly keep an eye out as well. But yeah, it might be a rough time on the defensive side of the ball. Could be seeing the Bobcats play a lot of really high profile games. So that is something to keep in mind and something to absolutely keep an eye on as well moving forward, right? So what does that mean for Texas State football going into this year? Let's go ahead and get into the schedule real fast to go ahead and check that out, as this is what we have going on for this Texas State football team. So I have them as a 4-8 record. And I've already talked about, if this team was in the Sun Belt, this was going to be a pretty good football team in the Sun Belt, right? That is something to keep in mind, but it's just a higher level of competition, and it starts in non-conference play. They got Texas on the road, and I don't think, the idea of Texas State being Texas, that would be absolutely incredible to watch, but that is a little bit of a sky high expectation, right? That I think is a tad unfair at this time. They do also have UTSA for their annual, I believe it's the I-35 rivalry game that they play every single year. Was an absolute classic last year. This time going to play UTSA. But man, that UTSA team, that's going to be a pretty good football team with Owen McCrowd. Could see some fireworks there. And ditto to North Texas as well. They do have Incarnate Word at home, and they were going to have a certain quarterback that transferred 7 times over his college career, ends up declaring for the NFL instead a month before the draft starts. So that is the sole safe win that I do have. But then you get into the Pac-12 schedule. I mean, there's some. It's just an overall higher level of competition, which is why I'm a little bit lower on them from a record perspective. Colorado State even being one of their easiest games, and ditto to Utah State. Those two particularly have pieces in place that could give most of the teams in the Pac-12 a hard time, and that certainly fits with Texas State as well. Boise State is obviously a team that I think is going to be the class of the Pac-12 going into this year. San Diego State might not be too far behind. And then on the back end, Oregon State is a proud program, as is Washington State. You got Fresno State as one of your last games in conference play. That and Fresno State has been a really good football team. Almost made the Mountain West title game last year before they jetted over to the Pac-12. And then finally for the flex game, which I do want to point this out, this does not count as a conference game. It counts as a non-conference matchup, and that could change at any time at the discretion of the Pac-12 league office. But for right now, we are looking at Colorado State on playing them on the road to end the year, with Jim Mora taking over that program. And he comes with the pedigree of turning around UConn football, which is certainly no small thing as well. So it's a tough conference, and because it's what I think it's head and shoulders the best conference in the G6. Texas State does come in as one of the toughest strength of schedules in the G6. I have them right now as the fourth strongest strength of schedule in at least the G6. And overall, that would put them at about number 72, which doesn't sound impressive, but it just goes to show how strong this conference is overall, with many of the toughest schedules in the G6 being in the Pac-12. So if there is that defensive development, there is a world where Texas State can absolutely flirt with making it to the Pac-12 title game. That is absolutely there for the Texas State Bobcats in your number one in the Pac-12 as a ceiling. But I do worry about that defense, and until I see developments that suggest that the defense is going to be better than what it was last year, in this new landscape of this conference, I can't be super high, which is why I have them at 4-8. But they certainly have the offensive talent to surpass my expectations. So it's a team that I'm very curious about as a dark horse candidate. But right now, the numbers say that they might not have a good season from a record perspective. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about Texas State football, though. If you think I should be a lot higher or if I should be even lower than 4-8, definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. But in the meantime, if you enjoyed this talk on Texas State football, I would truly appreciate it if you take the time real fast to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And for right now, this is Jake from College Football Red Zone sign off. Hope you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.